Hey, how's it going, guys? This is NatePick, and welcome to my tech world. So I have been using this 13-inch MacBook Air from 2011, and it's been pretty nice, and I'll explain why I mean that it's nice. Mostly is because of this keyboard. The angle of this laptop with the keyboard, it's really nice to type on and it feels really good, but there's an issue. So the issue is that since this is a 2011, it only has exactly 4 gigabytes of RAM. And if you're running an older Mac OS, that's totally fine, but as you start moving it up, especially using Open Core Patcher, you start running into the RAM actually is a limitation for newer Mac OS. So today, what I want to do is actually take this and put Linux on it. Okay, I do apologize. This is probably the best angle that I could do right now because I don't have one of those little fancy things that can, I guess, kind of do a top-down view from here. That's something I'm gonna have to work on in the future and try to get set up. I do have a pole, so maybe I can work something out with that pole and like use one of the clamps that I have to get a better angle. But for now, this is what I have to work with. But this is the bottom of the 13-inch MacBook Air, and of course, if you know anything about Apple, it does have these stupid torque screws. So I'm gonna get my little handy dandy screwdriver, which it works really well, but I'm trying to remember which one of these. It's either one of these two, and I don't know exactly what they are on there, or there's a couple that's on the back here, so I may have to look at that and see which one it is, but I believe it's one of these that is actually the correct. Yep, it's the very first one I grabbed. Okay, so I've got to take out all these screws. Okay, so most of the time, if you notice, I've pulled out the little screws beside each other, but these longer ones, because I do have longer ones in the back, I actually put up here in the front. Now, unless I'm doing a very major repair, most of the time this is how I lay out my screws, because that lets me know that, hey, they need to go back into this order. So this will help me to get everything that I need as far as knowing exactly where the screws are supposed to be. So that's pretty much all the screws out. Like I said, they have little tiny ones, and then there's 2 long ones in the back. So these ones you have to make sure you don't lose, because it'd be a pain to try to replace them, just to be honest. So most of the time with these 13-inch MacBook Airs, you can actually just come to the back and kind of lift just like that, and it comes away. And you can see this. I'm probably going to clean this. I do have this alcohol wipe, so I will go ahead and do that now and clean it up a little, because it has definitely been using its fan. So at least you know the fan works. That's actually a good thing. Yeah, we'll just get it all nice and clean up and looking a little bit better. There we go. Okay. And now, so looking at the actual board, now I already know for a fact I've already replaced thermal paste, and I've already cleaned the fan, so I don't really have to do that. I will kind of wipe this down a little bit, being very careful about how I do this. And also, right here is the actual battery. So I'm going to pull that battery to make sure there is no connections to the actual battery right now, because what I'm actually replacing is this SSD. So of course, this came in just like this. It actually came in today. So that's why I'm doing it, the video today. But yeah, it came in, and I can literally reach in and just pull out the SSD that is supposed to go in here. Here's the problem. Don't ever do this. If you're going to send electronics, it's just as cheap and just as easy to get you an anti-static bag and stick it in there. I mean, that would have been more appropriate and it would have fit. So yeah, if you're setting electronics off, don't put it in plastic bubble wrap. Unless it's shielded inside of a case, make sure you put an anti-static bag over it. So we're going to put this to the side, and I'm going to check and see which one that one is. I believe it's a small one, or maybe even smaller than what I have. Let me look at it real quick. Actually, it's a bigger one. So I believe it's possibly this size. Yep, that's it. It's stuck in there. Okay. Torque screws. Because the reason why I don't know what it is, because they do sort of label these on this particular thing, but they don't actually give you exactly what it is. So that one did not go through. Okay. So I believe some of them do. So yeah, this says T4, so I can try T4. See if that's a little bigger. Yep. Okay, so it is a T4 on this. So I'm gonna put that to the side and get this worked out. So you slightly lift it up a little, and then you kind of wiggle it just very carefully to get it to release. There you go. That's it. So now if you notice on this particular one, there's a pad that's here, but on this side it only has 4 DIMMs. So these are actually 32 gigabyte modules. On this one, not only does it have it on this side, but if you flip it over, then it also has it on the back. So that's going to be very, very, very nice upgrade to 256 gigs. And that will actually help me with running Linux. And once again, you just kind of put it at just a little bit of an angle and push in, and it will slot right in. So here's the struggle. These tiny, tiny screws with my big old hands. So I've got to try to get it fit on there first. There we go. Now I can take my screwdriver and there you go. And I actually let it free spin, because when it tightens down to the certain point, it'll actually start spinning out of my hand. I actually let that go and let it spin, because that lets me know that this is tight enough. So I don't really need to do anything else. So the new drive is in. So now I can go ahead and re-plug the battery. And you just kind of push it in with that little tab that's there. Okay. And that's the battery plugged in. And later on, I do need to replace this battery. And basically, you have to take off these speaker mounts. And there's actually little screw holes for this battery. So this one's actually very easy to replace. I haven't done it yet because it technically still works. So I don't want to do too much and spend a whole lot of money on this, especially whenever I basically got this for free. So yeah, I don't want to do that. So now comes the fun part, and it is finding the correct bit again. I believe that is too small, or maybe it's not. I do think it is the bigger one. Yeah, it is the bigger one. And this one says, I have to really look at it. It says 1.2, so I don't know exactly what that is. I wish it would actually say T whatever. But yeah, so basically it's what these screws are for. So once again, I have to kind of finagle it in there. And sometimes the magnetic bits work, sometimes it doesn't. So see if I can get it to, there we go. Yeah, that's the best way that I've found to do this. So I'm going to put these screws back in. So as I was doing the screw, it actually went straight down. I will say, if you're working on these MacBooks, you actually want the screw to kind of go in at an angle like this, because then it actually slots down. If it doesn't, then it will screw down on top of the case and it's not fully seated. So just something to be aware of as you're putting these screws in. They are at a slight angle, so you want to make sure that you kind of angle it and then screw it down to where it actually goes into the slot hole. So that's something that, once again, just It's an Apple thing. I know with the new chassis, with the newer machines, that's not really a thing anymore because they did basically have a flat bottom. But with these older ones, if you're working on them, kind of got to go at an angle. So, and as you can see, this is the reason why I also put the screws on the side of the machine, because yeah, it lets me know exactly where those screws go. So, like I said, unless I'm actually working, like doing some major repairs, I'm taking a logic board apart and all that stuff, then I will go grab an actual caddy for the screws. But just doing a little simple SSD swap, nah, I'm good. Okay, so that is everything screwed back together, and everything looks pretty clean. I mean, I've got scratches and stuff, but that's kind of expected on these. So yeah, this is pretty much ready to go. I am going to go ahead and take its actual power cable, which is here, and plug it in, because as I'm doing the install, it's probably going to run it pretty hot. So just something to be made aware of. And it just chimed. There you go. Should give me a hard drive error. There you go. So what that little folder is just basically saying that, hey, I don't see any operating system on this. I know that there's a drive that's there, but there's nothing whatsoever on it. So that's actually a good sign. And so we're going to take this drive, which is my Ventoy drive, which I do know has Debian. I would install Pop! OS, but this has 4 gigabytes of RAM. And if I install Pop! OS GNOME, it sort of likes to eat RAM because GNOME caches everything just like Mac OS. Even though it does clear it a little bit better, I will give them credit for that. But the other problem is that I do want to make it more usable and kind of make it look like Mac OS. So I think Debian with XFCE will probably be the best route for me to go. And I'm going to use the Ventoy drive to install Debian. Okay, so what I did was power it down. Now I'm going to turn it on. And if it does its job, that device should show up. And it should let me. If it doesn't, then I'll have to power it off and hold Option. But we're going to see exactly, what it does. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. What the Option does is it actually gives you options of what to boot off of. So if it doesn't pop up for me, then I can hold Option. Basically, I have to turn it back off, hold Option while I'm turning it back on, and then I can boot from there. But sometimes it will actually go ahead and do it. So we'll just see. Okay. I don't know if you can see this or not, but it does say not a secure boot platform. So what I'm gonna have to do is shut it back down again. And instead of trying to run it as a normal mode in Ventoy, let's try to use Grub, because Grub usually will fix that error. So we'll try it. If not, then we'll have to go into the actual recovery mode and do some command lines just to get it past this point. So yeah. Thanks, Apple. Okay, so we're back on the screen. I'm going to go back to the net install ISO. I'm going to use Grub 2 mode. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to run it through the actual graphical install, and we'll just go from there. But this does have the EFI from Apple. I haven't made really any changes to it. Don't plan on making any changes to it because normally, like I said, if you run into that error on a Mac machine, if you run it through Grub 2, then you'll actually it should fix itself. And my trackpad ain't working. Okay, so the trackpad not working, something I'll probably have to get drivers for, but we're just going to continue because I have a mouse now, and Apple can get over themselves. And so let's see if it will configure the keyboard. I don't even know if it actually, I see no inputs currently. Yeah, there's nothing so far. So part of what I may have to do is actually go get a hub and then use an external keyboard with it as well. We'll just have to see here, but I can at least try to get it working to a point. My whole goal is just to get it to a point that I can actually log in, and then I'll do all the networking stuff. So here is something that's interesting. I just went through the Wi-Fi part, but it actually it actually connected to the Wi-Fi, but it's not using the trackpad. And it's using the keyboard, but not the trackpad. And the trackpad works on this. That's interesting. Okay. So it's just something I'll probably have to just work it out. Okay, so root password, I'm actually going to skip this part. I'm not going to actually do this. I'm going to leave it empty because it will actually use my username to gain administrative privileges, and it actually tells you, alternatively, you can lock the root account password by leaving this setting empty and instead use the system's initial user account, which is what I want to do. So for here, I'm going to leave this empty and just leave it as it is. So my full name is going to be, of course, NatePick. So there you go. That's going to be my user account. And now I'm going to type a secure password with blurred out features here. Okay, so typed in my secure password, going to be on Central Time now. Okay, so now we're into the partitioner. We're going to use the entire disk, and it says guided. So you can either do it manually, or you can use guided, use entire disk, guided, use entire disk, set up LVM, or guided, use entire disk, and set up encrypted LVM. I'm just going to use the entire disk as is because I don't plan on taking this with me anywhere. It does show our 200, it's technically 256, but it only gives you 251 of access. So that's going to be our SSD right there. And also for partitioning, you can do separate home partitioning. You can also separate it between home, var, and temp partitions, all that kind of stuff. I just leave it as all files in one partition. I know that technically you can create a second home partition, which is something I may do, but I don't really find a need for it. So I'm just going to use it as it is. Once again, if you ever use this as a guide, this is the easy way to doing it. So we're going to finish partitioning and write changes to disk. Go ahead and hit continue. And we're going to hit yes. Hit continue. And one thing about it is that because this actually is a fast SSD, it's actually pretty decent as far as speeds go. It is still going to give me some swap, which will help even in Linux. And to be honest, I feel like that unless you're doing the M series Apple that has stupid fast SSDs and can run the swap really well, using Linux on these older Intel MacBooks, I feel like they use the swap a little better on Linux than they actually do Mac OS. So I don't really have full proof of that because I kind of feel like they're pretty much the same, but to me, it feels like Linux does utilize it a little bit better. So, okay. So right now it's still kind of installing the base system, trying to let it go through all this. And it's getting pretty close. So now we're going to go through and configure the package manager. So I am in the United States. I'm going to hit continue. I just use the regular deb.debian.org. You can select other mirrors if you want. I'm just going to leave it as standard. And I don't do anything with this, so just hit continue. So now it's configuring apt. So currently what it's doing right now is actually trying to find all the packages so that you can select and install software. So it's pulling a Linux image right now of 6.12, which is the kernel, if you don't know that. And plus it's also saying, hey, it's Debian 13. So it's in the process of trying to get all the software and everything set up for it. And hopefully I can get the trackpad back on this because, yeah, to not have that is kind of ridiculous. So now it's going to say, hey, do you want to automatically submit a script that will run once every week, sending just statistics to distribution developers? No, I'm not going to do that. So we're just going to hit continue. So now we're at the place that when you're using a graphical installer that you can select your desktop environment. I am actually going to remove GNOME and go with XFCE just because, once again, this has 4 gigabytes of RAM and it's got to share it between the processor and the Intel graphics. So we're going to XFCE and we're also going to run it with X11. So yeah, that will be I think that would be the best option for this. And as you can see, it's starting to retrieve all the files and it's going to go through all of the install here. But I will say, if you have never typed on one of these scissor switches that was before the butterfly nonsense, these things are really good. I actually have a 15-inch MacBook Pro, and typing on it is absolutely great. As a matter of fact, I'd even put it almost comparable to a ThinkPad. Now, there's a caveat there. If you're talking about like 90s ThinkPads with early 2000 ThinkPads, no, those are still better than almost anything else. But I will put this up against a T470, a T460, a T44. I'll put this up against all of them, and I will tell you that I would probably still prefer this a lot better because it just feels so good to type on. But other than that, they're pretty close to the same. Let's just be honest. So while this is still installing and it's taking a minute to install, actually it's going a lot faster than it was actually downloading the software. But I did want to show this off. This is something that was really cool. This is a Logitech mouse that is actually made for left hand. And I thought that I would try it and see how well I can use it. Surprisingly, I picked it up really well. I'm actually using my index finger on my left hand to click, and yeah, I mean, I picked it up. It's really easy to use, and it kind of gives you, like, sometimes if you're in a tight space and maybe you need your keyboard a little bit more to the right and you have no mouse room. Well, I travel with this mouse now, so I'll pull this one out the bag and put the mouse on the left hand side and just use it as it is, as a regular mouse. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. I don't know, it is the M650. This is L left. So M650 L left. If you're left-handed, there is a mouse for you, and it's pretty solid. It's really good build, and it does have the regular universal receiver in it. So you could attach it to also a keyboard or whatever that you want. So this is actually finishing the installation, and it actually said a while ago setting up the Intel microcode, which is good. So we're going to go ahead and hit continue, and that is going to start running up the cleanup and unmounting, and then I can go ahead and pull this drive. So now we got the bong. That's a good sign. And give it a minute and we should go into actual Debian. There you go. So we are now into Debian. Okay, so now we're actually on actual Debian with the XFCE. So I'm going to put in my username, blur this part out. Okay, so now we are actually in the actual XFCE, and I do have, I believe, okay, so I do have Wi-Fi, and that is blurred out because y'all don't need to see my Wi-Fi information. But there's something interesting that happened. So during the installer, I had to grab this thing in order to work. But now that it's installed, I have my trackpad back. So yeah. But yeah, so now we do have XFCE, and we do have, I believe we have gestures. Let me, yeah. So that's working. Wonder if we do have backlight. Okay. That's pretty good. We're going to turn it up just because I want to see how it looks. So, hey, that works. Display, we can turn it down. We can turn it back up. I'll probably leave it up. So everything seems to work. One of the first things I'm going to do is sudo apt update. Okay, it says all packages up to date. So I'm going to do sudo apt install Nala. That's going to be the first thing I do every time. And so, yeah, there you go. We are getting Nala installed, and okay, we're going to hit clear, and then I'm going to do sudo Nala fetch. So now what it's doing is actually fetching Debian mirrors, and it's going to look at all the mirrors and see which one is the closest. So I can set, what I normally do is I use about 3 or 4 of them, just in case, if one of them is kind of down, that gives me a little bit more options to check. But it's going to fetch for the fastest mirrors that's closest to me. and then I can decide, okay, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, or I can decide even slower mirrors if I want to. I don't know why you would do that, but yeah, that's something that can be done. Okay, so it said Debian U Chicago is the fastest. There's a couple extra ones, so we're just going ahead and do 1, 2, 3, and 4. And you can either put a comma in between 1, 2, 3, and 4, or you can put a space, which is what I do. Yep, so I'm going to say, yep, those are okay. I'm going to hit clear. And I will say, this is a lot smoother than Mac OS right now. I mean, a lot smoother. Okay, so with our B-top, we have a total of 4 gigabytes of RAM. We have 3.9 gigabytes available that's being used, that we can use. Free, we have 2.376 gigabytes available. So that's the reason why I wanted to move to Debian with XFCE, because of just how small it actually runs. So that's all I have for today. I just kind of wanted to show you that you can use a older MacBook and make it basically, you know, usable again. Debian worked just fine. Debian 13 is great. It's really snappy, even with 4 gigabytes of RAM. Just understand that if you try to install like GNOME or KDE, you're going to run into a RAM limitation. Even if you install Pop! OS and use Cosmic, you're probably going to run into a RAM limitation. But using something that's really small with RAM like XFCE, or you can go with a window manager. Window managers, most of them will barely ever use 4 gigabytes of RAM. But still, this is working the way that I wanted. I wanted to have the desktop. I'm going to kind of make it look a little better, and I might do a video of me actually ricing this, or maybe I'll do a stream on it. I don't know. I'll just have to see if I can actually get this thing to hook up, because it does have a display port, or maybe that is Thunderbolt. I believe that's Thunderbolt, but I also believe I can make it run as a mini display port. So if that's the case, then I need a adapter to go to HDMI, then run an HDMI cable into my capture card, and then mirror the screen. So yeah, that's gonna be a whole thing. But other than that, guys, I hope that you enjoyed the video. That's all I have for today. Like I said, it was a really quick run through of installing Debian on this old MacBook Air. It runs very smooth. I'm very happy with it. And now that all that's left is, I've got a few more things I want to install. For example, my note-taking app, NoteSnook, one of the best ones, by the way. So I'm going to install that one, so that way I can use this as what I intended it for, and also maybe get like flat packs and stuff up and running. So that's all I have. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, peace.